Coming live from Los Angeles, California, USA is our guest this morning. Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Seth Eliot Santoro, and he is an intuitive leadership expert, healer, reframer, and smileologist, and HR advisor. Welcome to the show, Seth.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. A very warm welcome from a very, very warm Delhi. It's a bit cold here, but we
Is it?
Delhiites are mostly we are very warm in that thing, and so that means the cold does not mean much to us. We take care of it, and it takes care of us. So welcome once again, Seth.
Thank
We will
you.
be talking about, as the topic says, how to heal productively and efficiently. But first of all, Seth, who needs this sort of healing? Who needs healing in today's time?
I mean, I think everyone needs it. I think that we all have lots of challenges and traumas and obstacles that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I think there are also those from our past that we just cannot move forward. And it affects our lives. And, I believe that if we all spent more time on healing, then the world would be a completely different and changed place, hopefully for the better, with more kindness, more compassion, and more peace building.
Okay, okay. So let me ask you this way:
Okay.
your dream is to be a spiritual advisor to presidents and prime ministers around the world.
Yes, it
I'll
is.
start from there. Why?
Okay.
Why is it so? Why straightway from the presidents and prime minister? Do they also need healing?
Absolutely. They all need lots of help, all the help they can get. It's for millennia. Prime ministers and presidents and leaders around the world have had their psychic advisors and their spiritual advisors. And I thought I wanted to be an actor and singer and change the world that way, in my 20s. But I realized that I
You
want
can, you can still be. You are a handsome man. You can still be. And along with that, it is people. A lot of people do several things at the same time. So you got a lot of time in your hands still, my friend.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I learned, though, that I want to help people that have direct contact with hundreds and millions or billions of people. So when I say my vision is to inspire 1 billion people to heal and smile from the inside, I really mean it. And that's why I want to work with prime ministers and presidents and leaders, because they have a direct effect on everyone in their countries, in their lands, in their cities, states, provinces.
Right, right. So let's talk about healing in personal life. Healing. Is there healing also in businesses?
Oh yeah. I, I
Okay.
I tend to believe that any type of loss needs to be healed, right? So if you're passed over at work for if someone else gets a job and you don't, or if you're let go, or even sometimes if you're quit, there's a loss there, you get to grieve the people, you get to grieve the organization. So also when you get really upset if someone's not, we all get frustrated with people we work with from time to time, and learning how to overcome that and get over that and move forward without, because I'm an HR advisor, I can say this, but without animosity or without feelings and emotions around it is so important for us.
Okay. Okay. So now let's take both the things. One is the personal
Okay.
part, personal lives, in terms of relationship with whoever that are around us or in the past. And then there is the business part of it. Let's take firstly the personal part. Why is it that people who look very happy may not be happy and they don't know? So that is why my first question was, who needs healing? How do I know that I need healing? Is it because I keep on thinking about something? Does that mean that I need healing? Or is it something else that needs to be taken care of? Like If you say that you want to be an advisor to presidents and prime ministers, even if you don't reach them and they know that they need that advice, they would certainly reach out. Is it that people do not know where they stand in terms of how they look at the world? Or is it that somebody needs to tell them something else? Some parameters are there that one can evaluate themselves with and come out to know whether they are actually happy or they need healing. How do you look at that? Several questions at the same time, Sid.
I know.
But
I got it.
you can respond at your own pace.
I got it. I think I can answer all of them. I believe that it's all the above. I believe that there are people out there who don't know they need healing. It because they have triggers, right? Everyone has triggers, and I think the more triggers you have, and the more triggered you are, it's more indicative of other things going on and other challenges going on. I believe that those people that don't know do not have the level of awareness that I believe we all get to have, and we all really like. That's my goal and my ambition, is to have everyone feel more self-awareness so that they understand what's going on inside. And yes, there are people who are, I mean, I smile all the time. I'm super happy on calls, but I still have issues that I'm working on, right? We're all works in progress. But I believe that when it affects you and affects those around you, for example, at work, there's someone that just can't get past themselves, and they make everyone's life harder. They might not know there's something wrong, and they might be miserable, but everyone around them would be like, wow, that guy has some issues, right? So that's where the self-awareness comes in to that. And that's where this person would definitely need healing in some level, or definitely some awareness work. I think I answered all your questions.
Yeah, you did. But then, how does one person know whether he or she needs healing, or is it a need of a therapist? How does one differentiate there?
Well, I mean, I think there are so many ways to work on your own emotional healing, right? I think there are therapists, there are coaches, there are friends, there are family members, I think, how do we know? I think if we can't, it's easy to know when we can't get past something. Like, I have certain things that have happened in my life that 20 years later, I still can't get past. Not many, because I've done a lot of work on myself, but there are those few items. And then there are items that I didn't even know I needed to work on. Like, let's say I'm married to a man, and sometimes we have issues, and sometimes I get triggered. And it's because of something that happened maybe 15, 20 years ago. I totally believe in therapy. I had been in therapy for about 17, 18 years. And now I work with coaches because I find them to be more up my style, in terms of let's talk about what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, and let's move you forward. And that's where I come in. So if you're struggling with something and you just can't get past it, that's a definite need, and a definite kind of like sign that you need some healing, to do some healing. I also believe that if you, excuse me, sorry, if you also are being triggered a lot by various things, I think you might want to look into that. And also, or lastly, I'll say, if you are the common denominator in a lot of the messiness or chaos that's happening in your life, or drama that's happening in your life, perhaps you might want to look into yourself.
Okay. And so now, coming to the business part, you are a business coach, you are an HR advisor. Where is the intuitive business coach part come in, and where is that healing part here? One is that business is about profits and losses. How does a person like you come into that whole process? Where is it? Is it that entrepreneurs or top managers, CEOs, they need to see things in a perspective that helps them move away from any incident of loss or anything, and then take care of business in the right perspective. Help us understand this part of the healing in our business processes.
Sure. The way that it all came about was I had been in HR. I've been in corporate America for over 20 years. I had been a coach, an executive coach for over 15 years. This is a couple years back. And then I started to develop my psychic gifts about 10 years ago. So over the past couple of years, I've really formed a way to culminate all of those together into what I call executive coaching with a flair, or with an intuitive flair. And that's where the intuitive business coaching started, right? When we're dealing with executives, CEOs, what have you, everything comes up. So they can be talking about time management issue or an employee relations issues, and everything comes up, but they're usually triggered by something. And then we explore where that comes from. I've had conversations, and then also I've had conversations with people where they're getting anxiety and nervous about a meeting with a board that's coming up, and I can literally kind of walk them through, okay, here are the people that are going to be in there, and they don't tell me anything. I just say there's going to be 3 or 4 people in there. There's going to be a more feminine person who wants you to focus more on facts. There's going to be a more masculine person in there that wants to focus purely on numbers. There's another person. So I can literally kind of lay out the room for them. So the idea is I'm giving them as much information beforehand that they should know, and so that they can prepare better. So what I like, my sound bite, if you will, is I help, game changers heal their inner strife, reframe their present, make more intuitive choices, and build better legacies. And that's really, especially in business, when people are creating and building better legacies, they're also affecting the future of everyone around them. So the people that work for them, their families, their friends, and anyone affected by the products that they're creating or the services that they're creating. Does that all make sense?
Of course, of
Okay.
course, of course. I'm just trying to grasp as much as possible and make myself happier in the process. I'm happy to learn all these things, and actually, I am, smiling from inside. That is what your attempt are to inspire the world to heal and therefore smile from inside. But for simplification of everybody else, what does smiling from inside mean? Means a lot of people keep on happy, smiling. What is the destination of smiling from inside? How do people know whether they have reached that point?
I believe that smiling from the inside is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, and it's comprised by a bunch of choices and decisions that you make in your life. It's not that you're smiling and happy all the time. That's really not what smiling from the inside. It means that you've done the work. It means that you are less triggered. It means that you have found ways to live a more balanced, a more creative, and a more fulfilling life. So do things annoy me? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean, and of course I'm down from time to time, right? Like this week, sometimes getting up the brand new year, I'm like, yay, 2023. And then I get up and I'm like, oh, 2023, So it does not mean that I'm smiling and happy all the time. What it means is I find ways to seek joy, and I find ways to be grateful for what I have, and I find ways to spread compassion and kindness. That's what smiling from the inside is. It's a lifestyle choice. It's not really a destination. It's just a way to be and a way to live.
Right, right. And then you have the smile method for healing from current obstacles. Can you share about that?
Yes. So the SMILE method is a 5-step kind of guide or program. It's designed to increase your awareness so much so when you're going through grief or loss that you understand that there is hope to heal and emotionally overcome what you've gone through. So the S is for shock. Everyone knows what shock is. I don't need to explain that. M is acceptance, a word I invented. It's part denial, part acceptance. So those are the days when you wake up, like let's say, unfortunately, someone passes or someone dies in your life. The next day you wake up and you're feeling, why am I feeling okay with what's going on? But you have logistics to get done. You have a lot of things to plan. You have a lot of things to do. And then 3 days later, you can't get out of bed because you're so you're so into your grief. So it's that dichotomy of getting through what you need to get through, and also it's the mind's way of kind of allowing time, I think, for the mind, that's body, mind, and soul, to understand what has just happened from the shock that you just went through. Then we have I, it's for in overwhelmed. So after the acceptance period ends, that's when essentially I always tell people that it's the moment where you sit Shiva for 7 days, everyone leaves your house. That's when you collapse on the couch, and that's when you just lose it. You're sad, you're depressed, you're angry, you're frustrated, you feel all the emotions. And it's so important to feel those emotions, because without going through those emotions, you will never get to the other side of grief, and you will never get to the other side of emotionally overcoming what's going on. L is for learning. So learning is about reflection. It's about gaining that profound and deep insight from what you've gone through. Whether it be a death, whether it be leaving a job, whether it be losing a job, there's always insight, or a relationship. There's always great insight into that. And I think most people actually get stuck in the learning part because they don't take the time. They've probably done a lot of feeling and having a lot of emotions, but they don't take the time to understand and reflect upon everything that they could learn from the situation. And finally, I feel like E is for embrace. Now, if you're talking about Dr. Kubler-Ross's, from 1969, her 5 stages of death, dying, and loss, it's kind of an update to that. And I don't think that acceptance is enough anymore. I think we live in the 21st century, and we must embrace what happened to us. And embracing what happens to us, is about being grateful, being blessed for what happened, or even with death, it's about, wow, like, I'm so glad they're no longer suffering. And I'm so glad that I had the 15 years, the 20 years, the 30 years with them. And I'm so glad they're in a better place. Or even embracing, I believe that when a child passes, that's the most challenging of all losses. And I tell people, if you can get to a point where you can use their death and take advantage and create good and create a better world from however it happened, that's what embracing is all about. So that's the SMILE and method. And I believe that the SMILE method is more for current traumas, obstacles, and challenges in your life, not necessarily past ones that are haunting you still. This is for more what's going on now, like your not so distant past, your present, and your not so distant future.
Right. And for the past ones, and for once and all, you got the grace method.
Yeah.
Why would not people choose the grace method and only the smile method? Firstly, tell us about the grace method, and then why would people choose only the current obstacles? Just help us understand that difference.
Sure. So you want me to talk about the grace method first and then explain what?
Yeah.
So the grace method.
The way you feel comfortable. That's fine.
So it's probably easier to explain it and then talk about the differences.
Right.
So the grace method is, again, an awareness, and it's a 5-step program or process of how to essentially get over what's happened to you for so long that you just can't get past. So the G is for going deep, because I believe, and going deep, by the way, has 3 parts to it. So number 1 is telling your story as dramatic as you want to, because we're all drama queens at the end of the day. We all like to exaggerate what has happened to us.
The world is a stage, and we are all actors. And
exactly. Exactly. So going deep. So number 1 is to tell your story the way that you would always tell it, the way that you want to tell it, your side completely. The second way to tell it, which is way more challenging, is to tell it from the other person involved, or from the other. If it's a company, you tell it from the company's purview. If it was a relationship, you tell it from the other person's purview, because their perception will give you further insight into what you're going through. So the third part of this is essentially melding those 2 stories in together. And that's where I think the responsibility, the R for responsibility and accountability, come into play. Because without taking accountability and responsibility for your part in whatever happened, you will never move forward. I think that's where everyone gets stuck, really, is taking that responsibility and accountability. Then we move on to, so once you've taken accountability and responsibility, then you can move on to the activating of emotions. So similar to in overwhelmed, you must go through these emotions. You must feel it. Um, and where I want to go with this too is that it's so important to share your story, especially when you're trying to heal something from the past. Just share your story as much as possible. So that brings us from the A, which is activate your emotions, to the C, which is compassion. And it's compassion and forgiveness, but it's compassion and forgiveness for not just the other party or the other person involved. It's also for yourself. In fact, I would say it's probably more important to forgive yourself sometimes, because I've held on to things for years and years and years, and I've forgiven the other person years and years ago, but I never forgave myself. And that's something that actually came out as I was writing this book a couple of years ago. So again, we're all works in progress. So after compassion then becomes evolution. So to evolve, right? Almost to embrace and accept what's going on, but it's to evolve and become a better person and make different choices moving forward. So the reason I think the two are extremely separate in ways, and one is for the past, one is for current, is because when you're dealing with past traumas or obstacles, they have haunted you for years, and you have cemented in your mind your version of what happened, not the other side, not the other person involved, your version of what's happened. And you have cemented that over and over again. And you've told the same story over and over again. So it's kind of a, I'm trying to think, it brings chaos to the brain and to the heart and to the mind and the body and soul. And that's where I think the work is destroying what you thought you knew and then learning a new way around it.
Okay.
Or not around it, but learning another way to handle, perceive, because when we know better, we do better. And when we gain more insight from our past, we can really shift a lot in our lives, because those past things that have never been healed we are so triggered in our current life more than we even give ourselves credit for. So and that's why I say healing once and for all, because will you always be healed, and will you forever think about in a different light? I believe you will forever think about that in a different light. You may still be triggered, but you will recognize it quickly and be like, no, that's the story I used to tell myself, not the story I'm telling myself now.
Okay. So sometimes it's easy to forgive others, but difficult to forgive yourself. And what about if somebody else has passed away? They go to the other world. You are a psychic medium.
Yes.
You are a life and death expert. Seth,
Yes.
what would you tell people who have missed their chances in this world? And the people who were supposed to be forgiven or were to forgive the person, they are in some other world. How does that work in between?
If you don't have a medium around to connect you,
They don't even know that they need a medium. They are just alone.
Archbishop Desmond Tutu from South Africa talks about this a lot, and spoke about this a lot, and I guess he's passed now. And it goes back to kindness and compassion for that person. I think there are many ways, or a couple of different ways, to help with that, right? Like, I think therapy can be amazing, but there's also other methods where you role play with someone and they pretend to be the person who's passed, and you say what you need to say, and then hopefully it's someone you trust and will support you no matter what, and they can help. I do believe it's also about knowing that usually, I would say more often than not, people do the best they can given the lives that they led, So having that compassion or finding that compassion could take years, but it is doable. And then I would also say, or find a psychic or a medium or someone to help with that. I mean, I have, in one session, I have helped people let go of shame that they've been holding on for 20 or 25 years, just because of something that I said, or a couple things that I've said as an interpreter, essentially, from the other side. I'm still thinking, I'm listening to about other ways that can help you forgive someone who's passed over, who's done you wrong. It's tough. I'm not going to lie. It's tough. But there are ways. There are definitely ways. With this new AI now out, it might be really interesting to type in, how do you forgive someone who's crossed over? That would be amazing. I'm going to do that right after this.
Chat GPT?
I'm sorry?
Chat GPT, that's the new AI
Yes,
thing.
yes. It's up on my laptop right now. Yeah.
Okay.
It would be interesting to see what that says.
Yes, yes. But then they would need to have that, that feeling, the human feeling. Exactly. Though they can answer many of the things, but the way you pronounce it, being sentient or sentient, that will take a bit of time. The day they become, then it will, I don't know, that will be a great day or a not so great day for
Yeah.
us, because it can be dangerous
Yes.
also. But
Yes.
right now, talking about healing, Seth, is
Yes.
that how does a psychic medium come in, and what can a person expect out of that experience of getting healed by a psychic medium? Is there something much more much concrete that they can expect? What do you do with how do you help people who pass through such experiences, who
Sure.
want to be healed forever?
Well, I help people heal in like 4 ways, I would say. So one is the intuitive business coaching. So we take business examples and we learn and to heal their past. The second way is energy healing, right? So it's akin to Reiki, but I can literally help people heal their headaches or heal something that like pains that are going on. So like physical healing. The third way is what I call intuitive readings. So we talk about people's not so distant past, the present, and the not so distant future. And we talk about what's going on in their life. And we talk about it from a way that I sense and feel more than they can. And I sense and feel more what's going on. And I receive information in many different ways. And it's always what they need to hear, not necessarily what they want to hear. And sometimes, like a couple of days ago, I was in a reading and we were talking about this woman's word for the year 2023. And I kept hearing happy medium, not having nothing to do with psychic medium. And when I said that to her, this is what I'm hearing, she started crying and she's like, yes, that's exactly what I need in my life right now. It's because whoever I talk to, whether it be angels or spirit guides or whatever you believe in, the universe, God, Allah, I believe that they know way more than we do, and they know what you need to hear. And sometimes, hopefully, I, as an interpreter, I can say and listen well enough to reflect and express what they're saying. And the fourth way of healing is psychic mediumship, right? So it's when I'm connecting with a loved one that's crossed over, whether it be animal or human. It's a little bit more challenging. I'm listening to them and receiving information from them. But for example, what I was talking about earlier is healing 20 years of shame. A lot of people who've crossed over don't want their family members to remember them on their deathbed, like if they're dying in a hospital. So they'll wait until either the person leaves the room. I mean, I've heard this so many times. And all I had to say was, she didn't want to die with you in the room. She wanted to die on her own terms and like didn't want you to see her that way. Even though the daughter really wanted that, the mother did not want that. And when I said that to her, you could see like the shame and guilt and of just leaving she just left for like 15 minutes. You can see it literally melt off of her face and her heart and her mind, body, and soul. And it was really beautiful. Now, does that happen every time? No, but I hope it does. Like, it's my secret wish is for everyone to have those aha moments where they let go of so much emotion and so much pain. And by the way, like in a mediumship reading and an intuitive reading, we laugh, we cry, we laugh, we joke, we get serious, we don't get serious. It's because life is all emotions together. And just because someone passes doesn't mean their essence also just disintegrates. So usually I can feel their essence. Like sometimes I start swearing. I'm not usually a person who swears or cusses, but sometimes I'm talking to these people and all they keep doing is swearing. And then I'm like, I don't really usually swear this much. Is this because they're like, oh my God, this person swore all the time. So I pick up their essence when we're doing readings, and we can talk about we can talk about facts from their past. We can talk about what's going on now. We can even talk a little bit about the future. And this might be TMI, but sometimes if we're doing like an intuitive and a mediumship reading, the family members or loved ones will stick around because they have things that they want people to know and they want their voices and opinions to be heard. And those are just really fun times.
Right. Sometimes, as a psychic medium, do you wonder what we human beings are? I mean, sometimes life can be so simple, and sometimes it can be so full of everything. So many wires and cross wires passing through every aspect of our life, and then you need to untangle them. Why is it so? Are we can't Isn't there a simple way of living life? And some people chase happiness every morning, day, night. I want to be happy, I want to be happy, I want to be happy, until I guess that might need a healing in its own way. How do you look at as the human psyche as a psychic medium? How do you look at it?
Oh, incredible question. I think that because I've been obsessed with death and loss and for so long, I've learned so much about life. And what I've learned is the purpose of life is to live and to find as much joy as possible. I believe that by essence, yes, life can and should be simple, but where would the fun be in that if we just led simple lives? And our journey and our challenge is to get through the good times and bad times and live to enjoy another day. So I feel like I often think about this, as you can tell. I do think about this a lot. And they on the other side, they make it sound so simple. And I'm like, you haven't lived a human experience, or it's been a long time. It's tough down here. I also think there are people that love drama and love to complicate things even more. And again, that's some healing that they need to go through. However, I do believe, again, that the purpose of life is to live and to find joy as much as possible.
Right. Tell us about your books set, Smile from the Inside, From Grief to Grace, and Finn and the Ferocious Food.
Sure. So,
How do people get it? Where do they get it? And how do people connect with you? Those who want to, connect with you and get your help.
sure. So, Smile from the Inside is my 5-step method, right? They can do that if we can find it on Amazon, or you can look me up at iamsetheliot.com, 1L1T, so iamsetheliot.com. But you can find Smile from the Inside on Amazon in almost every country. And almost every country, I say. And then From Grief to Grace is the Grace Method. Again, can be found on Amazon. And then Finn and the Ferocious Flu is my first children's book in a series it's called the Smile from the Inside Adventure series. And it's the first book about a lovely family in a fictitious pandemic and how the family navigates said pandemic. Yes, of course, it was inspired by COVID. But every book that's coming, I have another children's book that's coming out in the next couple of months called Scout and the Serious Split. Every book is going to tackle a taboo subject for children and also going to have an LGBTQ plus focus or backdrop, if you will, because I want to discuss. The books are set up to discuss with your families what's going on in the book afterwards and the emotions. And each book is also in the smile method. So each page talks about, okay, this is shock, this is acceptance, this is an overwhelmed, and this is learning. So the book takes you on a journey in several different ways. And I really hope people can discuss it everywhere. So they're both, Amazon.com as well. And all the books are also available on BN, like BarnesandNoble.com, BN.com. And then, if you do a search for it, you can probably find it within your country. I know that South Africa is a little challenging to get it, but you can still find it or find them.
Right. My last question to you,
Yes.
Sid, is, is that playing so many roles as intuitive leadership expert, healer, reframer, smileologist, spiritual consultant, HR advisor, life and death expert, psychic medium. How, as an individual, how do you separate so many roles that you play in your day to day life and separate yourself from those? Because so many people play those roles in their lives. There's so many things. How do you manage to do that? Because your brain is just one, and you've got to put so many things at the same time. It's like chat gpt, you put so many things, but it's a computer. How do you do as an individual separate all the answers to for everybody else and your own answers and questions to yourself? How do you do that and live your life forward?
It's all me. It's all part of me. Just like being LGBTQ is part of me. Just like being Jewish is part of me. Just like being an Angelino, someone who lives in Los Angeles. It's all parts of me, and it all makes up this incredibly unique individual, I think, at the end of the day. And logistically speaking, if I'm in an HR meeting, my mind is pretty focused on HR. Do I listen for other things and receive information? Absolutely. But I know sometimes that's not going to help. But I strive to actually kind of leave HR behind sooner than later and really focus on my genius, I think, which is these intuitive gifts and psychic gifts that I've been given to really help change the world. So I think my parents always say that they were like balloons, but in the air, like all these different roles that I want to play. But now they see them as like all parts of me. Does that answer your question?
It does.
That was
It
a
does.
tough question.
I know. There is no right and
Okay.
wrong. It's always right. It's about the individual, and as you said, it's about you. And everybody must keep on trying to find themselves about the issues that that stops them, that takes them forward, and keeps them happy. On this note, Seth, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining
Thank
us.
you so much. I've so enjoyed myself.